Well, ladies and gentlemen, I've got a guy on. His name is Brian Sluzerchuk. I've actually had him on several months back. We're talking about some of the junior miners and stuff. I know it's been quite a long time since I've had anybody on my channel here. I've been so busy with the cryptos and all the other stuff I talk about. But Brian is president of K92 Mining, also Canadier Mining, and he's now a director at a company called First Cobalt Corporation. Their stock symbol is FCC on the TSX Venture, which is the Toronto exchange. And he was just telling me before we started recording, before I did my video here, that there's a large news story with First Cobalt. You can't trade them right now or get into the stocks or the shares because they're in about to do a big merger that's going to be what appears to be really good news. So Brian, I'm glad. And here's another thing. Last time I had Brian on, this guy is everywhere, all over the mining scene. When there's gatherings in relation to this stuff, this guy is always there. And he stepped out once again to have a little chat about this. So Brian, I'm glad you could do that again. It's kind of like deja vu. But so tell us a little bit about First Cobalt Corp and this new potential merger that's about to happen. That looks like it's going to be some pretty good news for the mining industry, especially cobalt. But what do you got going with that?
Absolutely. I really appreciate you taking the time to have me on. We're obviously very excited about First Cobalt. And First Cobalt, just to give you a little bit of background, was put together by just an all-star team of mining entrepreneurs. One of the founders of the company, a fellow named Bob Cross. Bob is the current chairman of B2 Gold, which is a $2 to $3 billion market cap entity. Bob and a number of his associates took a macro view that cobalt was a very, very attractive place to be. And with that, built not only a world-class management team around that macro concept, but also acquired a great group of cobalt projects in Canada, including the past-producing Keeley Frontier mine, which, as Canadians know, is in the town or in the township of Cobalt itself, very aptly named, and for obvious reasons. Outside of the Keeley Frontier mine, we, as First Cobalt, acquired a really excellent asset mix within Canada, also ventured outside of Canada, put together a great land package in DRC, which is where most of the world's cobalt production currently comes from. And then on the back of that, announced a potential three-way transaction with a small Canadian entity named Cobaltech, and very importantly, with another significant player called Cobalt One, based out of Australia. And what this will potentially create is the world's largest cobalt exploration company with very advanced stage assets, as I mentioned, Keeley Frontier, and also exploration assets in highly prospective cobalt areas. So Bob Cross, his team did a great job taking this from a macro view on the cobalt market to the formation of an actual company. Trent Mell was brought on as the CEO. A lot of people in the mining industry know about Trent Mell. Trent Mell, ex-Barrick, ex-Falco, ex-Sherritt. And he ended up putting together, in his own right, just a world-class team of explorationists, geologists, engineers, guys like Dr. Frank Santaguida, who's the head of exploration, formerly with First Quantum. We've got a great team, and I think we're better positioned than anybody to take advantage of this cobalt boom that has just started.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. I was looking at some charts. I got them up in front of me right now. This goes back 2 years, and I think last time we talked, I don't remember if it was during the actual recording of the video, or whatever, or if it was either before or after when you and I were just chatting, but we talked a little bit about Cobalt then, and you told me then that Cobalt was going to be, you know, an up-and-coming star. It already was, and even performed even better now that we've entered 2017, like massively. But I mean, going back 2 years, it's showing, you know, 10, and this is, you know, Cobalt price, USD, you know, per pound or whatever it looks like, 10, 11 bucks. All of a sudden we hit 2017, January, February, and it just starts going way up. I looked yesterday, it was like $27. And I understand Cobalt's used in lithium-ion battery production too, isn't it?
That's right. And, you know, when I mentioned Bob Cross earlier, Bob has got the moniker in the mining industry. He's been called the millionaire maker. And the reason for that is not a stroke of luck or coincidence. Bob gets involved in situations very early when things are emerging and they're not known to the general market. And that's why he took a macro view on Cobalt, like I did mention earlier, that was just so bullish. And Cobalt has been a big part of this electrification theme. The lithium-ion battery, Cobalt's a crucial component. It was recently said in mining media that without Cobalt, there would be no Tesla. And that really hits home. Without Cobalt, there would be no Tesla. Without Cobalt, there would be no ability for the world to really electrify and follow through on this electrification theme that so many of us want in these emerging economies.
Yep.
So Cobalt is a crucial part to these lithium-ion batteries, and the ramifications on that are huge. And at the same time, there's a pending shortage, potentially, of Cobalt around the world. And these end users, whether it be Tesla, Apple, Microsoft, any of these companies, Samsung, these companies need Cobalt. And at the end of the day, by being early, we've got that early mover advantage that we can expose investors to. If this merger or transaction, I should say, occurs between First Cobalt, Cobalt One, etc., not only do we have the most impressive land package put together in Canada from a Cobalt perspective, but we're in the heart of the highly prospective Cobalt district in DRC. There's a world-class team around it. We've got a strong balance sheet, ability to finance, proven track record. If people want exposure to this electrification theme, First Cobalt is a place that they really need to look. And there are a shortage of public companies out there with high-quality Cobalt assets. And when we see asset rotation into the Cobalt class, we're one of the very few names out there that large institutional investors can sink their teeth into. So there's a scarcity of investment product in the Cobalt space. And as far as what this company will look like over the next few months, I don't see anything else like it out there. And that's why it's just been a real privilege and an honor to work with this group and be invited to this board early in what should be a multi-year, if not multi-decade, boom in Cobalt itself.
Well, it's like they say, you know, the math doesn't lie. Charts, you know, you're looking at a chart and it's showing you 2 years what it was, and a clear, defined path up that I'm looking at right now. You know, I just bought a Nissan Leaf not that long ago. Like you know, you were just talking about lithium battery technology. That's all these new cars are coming out with. And I was just kind of poking around to see what the new specs are, like on the 2018, and what are they going to double the mileage and that kind of thing. And that's exactly what they're doing. So that means more battery per car is automatic. The Chevy Bolt, another one, which I think they started this for the 2017 models. They doubled the battery power that they were using. So it's like, just with what's already out there, they're going to be doubling the batteries that are going into these things. Not to mention, I counted like 6 or 7 different manufacturers. I mean, you got BMW now and some other, big name brand car makers getting into the electric car scene. So this is, in my opinion, this is clearly where the futures is heading. And I've been telling my subscribers, everyone's playing these, the cryptocurrency game. A lot of people making a lot of money. I've made a lot of money on it. And, we're trying to get on the ground floor and stuff like this. And I keep telling them, it's great that we're doing good with this, the cryptos or whatever, but man, the junior mining companies and that whole sector, metals and everything related, man, they got hit hard with gold and silver here too recently. So I'm looking at stock price of everything else. I'm like, man, now's the time to diversify a little bit into some of these mining companies. We're just talking about another guy, you may have heard of him, Keith Newmayer, with his First Majestic Silver, and he's got First Finance, and he's another sharp guy, but he's focused mostly, on precious metals and whatnot. I know you guys have some, some gold mines and things that you guys work with too, like in your other companies. But like you said, I think cobalt, it's not something you normally, hey, you guys into cobalt? What cobalt? What? You know what I mean? So kind of like these cryptocurrencies, you tell someone about it and they're like, what are you talking about? But then you show them the numbers and they're like flipping out. Like, I can't believe it. And just for 2 years to see cobalt do that when all other metals have been getting, hit pretty hard recently, that's something to say about it. So, man, it sounds interesting. If you will, tell us again about the company and the symbol and everything.
Sure. So the company's full name is First Cobalt Corporation. You can take a look on the website. We've got a host of information at First Cobalt, including some very good videos, some very good background on the cobalt market itself, a whole lot about the management team that we're just so proud of. Because really world-class geologists, engineers, financiers, etc., involved in this project. We trade under the symbol FCC, so Frank Charlie Charlie, on Toronto's TSX Venture Exchange. If you Google First Cobalt Corporation, you'll see news about this transaction with Cobalt One, Paul Matisic's company out of Australia. Jason Bonatempo is there as the CEO. These names will mean a lot to people in the mining space because they've created so much value in the past. But for investors new to the mining space, take a look, dive into this, because by the time this comes back to trade, you want to know about it. I know that you've really made your name for being early to these types of situations. You mentioned the cryptos, etc. And it's worth digging into these things at an early level. And it's why guys like Bob Cross, like Trent Mell, have done so well over time. And we'd love to take your questions. So reach out to us through the website. And First Cobalt Corp, with a little bit of luck, and timing's never guaranteed, but we expect to be trading again here sometime in August. And again, it's FCC on Toronto's TSX Venture Exchange.
Excellent. Well, Brian, I know you're busy. You stepped out once again to chat with me for a few minutes. Appreciate that. And I'm sure we'll be talking again in the future.
Thanks so much for your time.
All right. Take care. Bye. Bye. Yeah, so that's interesting. I did a video, it's earlier this year, April, maybe, somewhere around there. April, maybe it was in April. And we were chatting about some of this kind of stuff. And it goes back to what I keep talking about with these junior miners. In most, what I usually looked at was precious metals, silver, gold, junior miners, and that's it. Then I started looking at some other ones, cobalt, zinc. Let's take a look at some of these things, because metal is metal. If the price is going up and it's a mining company, and they're, again, related to precious metals, which, I mean, you can't look at cobalt or zinc and say, oh, that's related to precious metals. But the mining industry is, I guess what I'm saying, related. And when metals, generally, all of them go up, or precious metals, if you want to look at it that way, go up, so does everything else. When precious metals come down, so does everything else. But another thing happens too. The mining companies, their share prices come down. And we've seen it over the last, it's been practically a year, I guess you could say, really. But we've been seeing them get hit pretty hard recently with the smackdown of gold and silver recently. So one thing we have to expect is that once these metals prices, the precious metals, start to finally take off, you know what happens to the other metals. They're going to take off with them. But something interesting happens like every single time. Whenever I go back and look at this stuff, it's like every single time excuse me, the mining companies, like if, you know, silver's at $15 and it goes to 20, you know, in a short period of time. If you had a mining stock that was, you know, $10, it doesn't do the same math where it goes up, you know, in that example, 15 bucks goes to $15, it goes up $5 more to 20 bucks for like silver, for example. If it's a mining company, you might see a $10 share jump to 25 bucks. And I sat there and looked at this. I looked at it over and over with First Majestic Silver. I looked at some other ones from the 90s, happened there, back in the 2000s, happened again, same bunch of these same old companies. So I was like, man, that's why I've kind of recently, not that frequently, talk about diversifying a little bit. Yeah, I've got my precious metals, my hard metals, specifically silver. You know this. I'm into the current cryptocurrency thing, which I'm loving life right now with that. So are you. But when you have those cryptos, in this case, or you just, for whatever reason, you got a little bit of funding, I want to diversify a little bit. You know, there is always the chance of, well, something happens to cryptos or gold's up, silver's up, and then they come back down. Mining companies, when the metals and stuff are moving up, all of them, any metals, whether precious or not, mining companies usually go way up. You know, it's almost like it's leveraged. Like whatever the metal, the underlying metal is, the price is, the mining companies just, you know, it's like they're leveraged up, you know, up. So a little different video today, something to think about. And I know a lot of times, like when stuff's listed on the Toronto exchange, the TSX Venture, and you're an American, let's say, or you live in another country, you might go, well, let me go to E-Trade, or let me go to this place. And I don't know what your situation is or where you live, but just reach out to some of those companies that you use to trade and ask, hey, how can I get in on the Toronto exchange, you know, the TSX Venture? Is there a way for me to do that here in America through you guys? They may tell you, yes, you just do it right here. Other ways, you may have to go and get in, you know, basically sign up to a broker, dealer, whatever, that has access to the TSX Venture, which means they would probably be in Canada. So you're going to have to find a Canadian broker or whatever, or trading platform online to get right in there as an American or as an Australian or whatever you may be, right? So that's just something you're going to have to, unfortunately, you're going to have to figure that one out, you know, to figure out how to get it. But anyways, just want to chat about that for a minute. And I've got, of course, my normal videos that I need to do. So I will talk to you guys later. Take it easy.